Note, the special meeting of the Mount Isa City Council may be live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council's recording of council meetings policy. As a visitor to the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in chambers, it is assumed that your consent is given if your image is inadvertently broadcast. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence for today?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Tully's indicated he may not get to the meeting, so it may be safer to...
Yes, I think we should apologise for Councillor Tully and potentially Coghlan. Councillor Coghlan is just held up with the weather. She's on her way.
Okay, thank you. Let people into the meeting? Don't need to, if we don't need to do it, we did. I'm happy not to. Resolve to have people come into the meeting from yeah. All right.
I think it's a given. We always approve it.
Well, it's not. I'm not aware that you need to resolve that. It's really just understanding that they're in the meeting. The only question is the Councillor Tully leave of absence. Resolve to grant leave of absence.
Okay. Would you like to? Someone like to?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we grant Councillor Tully a leave of absence. With the meeting being shifted from a Wednesday to Thursday, it made him unavailable. He's trying to get here, but.
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
All those in favour? Councillor Stretton? Yep. Councillor Fortune? And we have Councillor Stretton and Councillor Fortune coming in on the No, we haven't. So you might just have to say yay if
Yeah, we can see Councillor Stretton, but not Councillor Fortune.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, we've got the
Yeah. So we can't see Councillor Fortune, sorry. Yes, perfectly.
Councillor Fortune, the little button on the side should do it.
Oh. Okay, and in the meantime, declarations of conflict of interest. So I guess, can we get some advice from the CEO on this one?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think given the circumstances, which I'll explain, the risk of there being a perceived conflict of interest is quite low. You have received advice previously in relation to the main rodeo event each year, which is a different matter. This is a different event. And the reality is that the notional value of any tickets that might be provided to the council, not directly to you as councillors, which is a different issue, is about $25 general admission, as you know, and the corporate box question is about $199. So the value of the tickets is quite low. That is relevant to, in particular, whether you have to disclose that information in the register of interest, which is a separate issue again. In terms of potentially declaring a conflict of interest today, if you are not, any of you are not proposing or don't expect to receive tickets directly from the organisers, and I understand that wouldn't be the case, then the likelihood of having a perceived conflict of interest is quite low. Because you now have a policy in place which relates to the allocation of tickets, and that's a policy relating back to September of last year. That means, in practical terms, that the tickets are allocated to the council, and the CEO has an authority under that policy to allocate those tickets onwards to staff or councillors. What is likely to happen here is that if we were to receive tickets, they'd be allocated on an individual basis to council so that you can do your job as a councillor. There wouldn't be a whole bunch of tickets allocated to individual councillors on request. So I think all of those things, when combined, mean that the risk of having a perceived conflict of interest is quite low in these circumstances. However, at the end of the day, it is a matter for you as individuals to make up your minds about that.
I have a question. So I have taken 3 tickets for my husband over the last 3 years for the Mount Isa Rodeo.
Yep.
So does this, because this is a different event, Is that the same thing?
That is the,
And I've taken them from the council,
Yeah.
not from radio.
well, that's the ambiguity. So I think the sensible view here is that this is a different event. It's a low-key event. The value of tickets, not that that's directly relevant to whether you declare a conflict of interest in a meeting, is much lower. And you now have a policy in place that you didn't have in place previously. So all of those things combined, my personal view, all things considered, is that the risk of a perceived conflict is very, very low. But at the end of the day, I have to say to you that you can only make up your own minds about these things. So I personally think it's quite different, a set of circumstances to previous circumstances when you're deciding rodeo allocations, different event, different tickets. You've now got a policy in place. All of those things weigh up.
Thank you. Does any councillors have any questions in regard to the conflict of interest?
Oh, I just want to note that we've always only ever received tickets from council, not ever directly from an event.
Yep. Okay.
Through the chair, I don't have a question. I just think, over a year, and where community organisations and groups like the rodeo and that, put out these things, and it's quite, there's a lot of expectation on councillors to attend these things by the organisers, particularly if council is sponsoring, But if councillors were to actually have to pay, for every seat, I mean, I'll pay for a few, and myself, I personally prefer to work there as a volunteer on the bar or something, But I still think that it's quite onerous on councillors, to have to pay for every event that they are invited to over the year, Anyway, that's my view.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments in regard to the conflict of interest? Is everyone happy to move on? All right. So that takes us to item 4.1, which is the sponsorship application from Isa Rodeo Limited, Road to Rodeo Mount Isa. Would someone like to move the officer's recommendation?
I'll move, Madam Mayor.
Oh, actually, we've just lost Councillor Fortune. He's waiting in the lobby. Okay. Sorry if we just... Are you there, Councillor Fortune? All right, I'll make sure I check with you. So would someone like to move the officer's recommendation?
I'll move, Madam Mayor, that council approves sponsorship to the Isa Rodeo Limited in the amount of $40,000 plus GST cash to support the 2023 Road to Rodeo Mount Isa event to be held at Buchanan Park Event Complex on the 7th of May 2023. And that council approves a fee waiver for the hire of Buchanan Park for the period the 3rd to the 8th of May 2023 at an estimated value of $6,045 GST inclusive, to run the Road to Rodeo Mount Isa event, and that council authorises the CEO to finalise a memorandum of understanding between Isa Rodeo Limited and council for the 2023 Road to Rodeo Mount Isa event.
Can I get a seconder for that motion?
McRae.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fortune. Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak on behalf of this motion?
Yeah, thanks. It's fairly well outlined in the paper. I've clarified the budget allocations with the Director of Finances. For me, it's part of the 100 Years events. It's also a lead-in to potentially holding additional rodeos each year at the Buchanan Park, which is to some extent underutilised. So this would be could be a good lead-in for that. My understanding is that we have money in the community support budget to be able to draw this from for the year, so there won't be any implications for our bottom line for this year going forward. And my understanding also is that Rodeo have indicated that they won't be seeking additional funding for the Rodeo event to be held in August this year as well. So I think in this, you know, with all those factors combined, I think it's it'd be great for council to support this rodeo. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions from councillors?
Idea now that ownership of Buchanan Park has come back to council, that any of the work that council do, such as cleaning up, making the arena floor safe for riders, that includes getting equipment in there to tear up the ground to make it soft. There's a lot of machinery and plant and equipment used in that, and that value I don't believe is taken into account with the in-kind costs. So there's a $40,000 cash component and a just over $6,000 fee waiver, but there's no costs captured with the cleanups before and after. I know that during the rodeo proper, the rodeo itself has a very hard time getting volunteers to clean up during and after the rodeo. And I know for a second event that they will have a similar or even harder task of getting volunteers to clean up. And if that falls to council, obviously there's a cost involved, and I would like those costs to be captured. So probably a heads up for yourself, Dale, with those hidden costs. We need to capture those so that our commitment is fully realised and appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Fortune, and I believe that we have Brian who's keen to put some information forward.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. Agree completely, Councillor Fortune, with what you made mention. A part of the rental with the 6,000 sum that's available, or that we're looking to include, is through an invite that we've made to the rodeo to come in. It's an obligation for council to have the facility fit for purpose, so that when they do come in, it's ready for the activity of a rodeo. That means seating and everything else is cleaned and set in good order. It is their responsibility to leave it as they found it. So that is a part of their obligation. Any costs incurred or any helps that's required from a rodeo point of view to leave it as they found it will be a rodeo obligation. And that will be specified in the memorandum of understanding or the agreement put forward.
Thank you. And I do agree
Thank
with
you.
Councillor Fortune that it would be great to, as councillors, understand all our in-kind, costs, so, going forward, we've got, if it is costing us an extra 30,000 or whatever it is, we've got a good handle on what we're providing. Any other comments before we, yep.
Sorry, can I just clarify one other thing from Councillor Barwick? In regard to the original request was for 60,000 with the understanding that no further funding would be called on from the rodeo event. As this event now is calling, as we've negotiated, or we've come up to an agreement that it's probably $40,000 for this event, and it's probably, I'll say, well supported, well needed. There may be application for further funding for that sum or difference between the 60, which will be then for further council consideration.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Be the 20?
But what if through the chair, what if the clean-up costs and the in-kind comes up to maybe $20,000? What happens then?
If I can answer that, as a part of the providing the facility fit for service by way of arena's ready, the chair's cleaned, everything in a ready state, it's their obligation to leave it in that state, won't be a council. Any rentals applicable, which I believe 6,000 whatever dollars a day, that is where we recoup our funds against the setup costs. We have to have the facility in a ready state. We have to have it so it's fit for purpose. If it's not used for a year, we can't expect someone to go in and fix it so it's ready. We have to make it available, fit for purpose, so the rental's in place and warranted.
Yep.
And
Okay, and
if-
through the chair, can I just ask, I'm a little bit confused as to what competitors are going to be at this rodeo, what the rodeo entails, and where are they getting the stock from?
I can follow up on that information, but it's, there was a brief supplied with the normal events, and I won't go into it, but there's
Yep.
more than just bull riding, there's rope and steer, barrel racing, there's a host of events going on for, I think it's
The
about
brief's
over-
at the end of the
for half a day activity.
the document on you. Dale, did you want to add something?
Madam Mayor, the only thing I would say is that the decision in relation to the August rodeo support or otherwise will be dealt with on its own merits. It is not a given that another $20,000 being the balance of the 60 is going to be available for that event. They're going to have to argue it on its merits, and council can and should decide it on its merits.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that, that we're looking for another 60.
Okay, is there any, and I think we've gone straight into the crux of what motion we've put forward, but I think it's important to let the community know that on the 6th of May, Mount Isa City Council will be hosting a gala dinner, which is a Saturday night, and it'll be, hopefully a lot of people will come back to Mount Isa for this event. And this rodeo would be on the Sunday, the 7th of May, which would complement community and also people who have come all the way to Mount Isa, and we all know that can be quite costly, so that it actually makes for a worthwhile, quite an awesome weekend, especially if some people are coming back with a lot of nostalgia. I'll be able to be at the rodeo. And what we've been promised by rodeo is this will be a low-cost event. It'll be entirely for the Mount Isa community. It's not meant to bring all the tourists in. It'll be for the community and ex-Mount Isa people, and it will be a nod to rodeos past. So I think that's worth mentioning, because when we're asking people to come to Mount Isa, and especially ex-Mount Isa people, we need to put on a show. And I think the next day is the King's coronation. So there's a good chance that'll be a public holiday. So it'll just ties in nicely with everyone coming to Mount Isa and have an opportunity to have a long weekend here and have a lot of fun. If there's no more comments,
I would just like to make mention that we would like tourists to come, though, because obviously the more people that support the rodeo, the more successful the event's going to be. And if we are sponsoring it, we want it to be a successful event. So we want, obviously, the invitation extended to everybody.
sorry, yeah, definitely. And the price, is very low. And when we say tourists, especially the Northwest, we want all our neighbours to come along, from Burke to Carpentaria to Charters Towers, Townsville. We want them all to come to Mount Isa and experience this weekend with all of Mount Isa. All right, so let's vote. All those in favour? Councillor Fortune?
Councillor Fortune's in favour.
Okay. and that's carried. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this special meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. It's now